Kate, Kevin Moecha, brings a bold vision to life with the gods of the SADC region, a groundbreaking narrative set in the year 2044. This thrilling story delves into an ultra-modern African underworld where supreme deadly forces maintain a delicate balance through a code of mutual respect. Moecha aims to shift the paradigm of African storytelling by moving beyond traditional tales of struggle and heritage. I mean, we've all heard those ad nauseum at this point. Envisioning a future where African sci-fi, fantasy, and magical stories dominate the big screen. With a focus on creating our own superheroes and action stars, Moecha aspires to turn his novel into a blockbuster series, akin to iconic movies like The Matrix, Transformers, and Star Trek, inspiring hope and a new perspective for a younger generation. The year 2044. In one lifetime on the ultra-modern African continent, we hear of the legend of two iconic figures who ruled over the underground world of the Southern African countries, the Southern African Development Community, or SADC region. The two came from completely different backgrounds, raised and molded by the dusty streets of Africa to absolute power. They have enjoyed supremacy for decades, with the success of their legacy growing from one son to the next. It so happens that later, the two had established wealthy empires, well-respected, feared, and known for their ruthless actions against the resistance in the underground world of crime. The powerful enemies that are inspired by strong, unbreakable family bonds have ears and eyes everywhere. To this day, the SADC is split between two families and only surviving on a gentleman's agreement made between the two founding fathers. The agreement has been well respected over the years, and not a single incident where one had to be reprimanded for breach of rules. One group rules the bottom south, South Africa, Lesotho, Eswatini, Zimbabwe, as well as Mozambique and Botswana. The other rules over the top north end of the south, being Namibia, Angola, Zambia, Tanzania, Malawi, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Madagascar is the only SADC country that holds its independence from the underworld of crime and corrupt politics. The one group at the bottom south region, nicknamed the Shadows by those who fear them, only operate at night, in dark places, and are never seen in public, unless if they're on a chase, that is. Their work is unsoiled and professional, and they leave no traces behind. If you ever spot them in public, it's either you or someone close to you is in trouble. Run. They never enter a building or an establishment from the front entrance, and when on duty, they're seen in dark clothes, preferably all charcoal suits from head to toe, charcoal trench coats, shirt, tie, black shoes, and shades. This is a small group that intentionally consists of no more than 35 core members across the SADC and survives through strong alliances within their circle of countries. Today, the Shadows do no operational work on the ground and no dealings whatsoever, be it in drugs, diamonds, guns, human trafficking, or politics. The Shadows' only duty is to govern the underworld streets and protect and maintain a safe passage for the top criminal lords. Criminal lords in different levels of leadership in the underworld are in turn forced to pay a quarterly protection fee for them to operate and exist in the south. The top SADC monarchy, globally known as the Red Walking Demons and recognized by the Italian mafia in the underworld of all bad things, got their name from the brutal actions of the founding father, Adao, son of Adam, a man of the Red Earth. Adao started as a one-man, no-nonsense debt collector of note, the type of guy you call when all else fails. The myth has it that he left no witnesses behind, was messy with his killings, leaving huge bloodstains on his suits. He later decided to always wear a burgundy suit to work, obviously to cover up the messy stains. He adopted a son, who later took over the reins and built a well-respected empire from the myth, including the all-red look. The son and grandson maintained the gentleman's agreement and expanded greatly on the empire by introducing a brilliant underground scheme called the Cheat Vault Bank. The family would hide and store massive amounts of illegal cash for criminal lords running from the law in their underground money vaults, and these are strategically scattered around the neighboring countries. They then later loaned out the very same cash back to the struggling criminal lords in need of instant cash at a high interest rate. They maintained fear and terror by playing on the legendary name and myth of the late founding father. Everything was going well in the underworld of the SADC, with both empires continuing to build more wealth, up until one foreseen yet inevitable incident took place, which unfortunately triggered by one silly action from an immature, power-hungry boy. The youngest son of the Red Walking Demons, who's forever trying to impress and surprise his father, dies at the hands of the shadows at a crime scene in Johannesburg. The rich, rowdy lad and his entourage found themselves entangled and cornered in an unfamiliar territory with unclear objectives while trying to establish a trade in the south. At this time, both families have never met before, apart from the two founding fathers many years ago. For the shadows, it was business as usual, as they had no idea who they had killed. Word reached the other side that their son is dead, his body burned to ashes in the bottom south of the SADC. The furious father sends his best hitman to investigate the family and the killing of his son. The hitman uncovers that his son was killed by the eldest son of the other family and reports back to the father. The father makes an immediate call to the other, and the two agree to meet in the aforementioned neutral location of Madagascar. But, as expected, the discussion and demands go south immediately, which leads to an unfortunate ending of what was meant to be an evergreen paradise between the two empires. When it all comes crumbling down due to greed, you'll be surprised at how quickly blood and water mix well in revenge to defend the monarchy. A quote from our author himself, Kevin Moeja. A final quote from one father to the other in Madagascar at the discussions. In a calm yet heavy voice, he ends the discussion. I'm sorry for your loss. It was an unforeseen accident. But even in this world that which you've created, that happens to you too. He pushes his chair away from him, spilling his untouched glass of whiskey on the table, deliberately doing so, mind you. As he continued talking, Mikey, should you look my way, come after my son, my friend, you will be reunited with your demon friends in the netherworld. Let the story continue.
I'm sure you could tell by the way this book has been written. It paints a nice picture, right? For those who have read the book, as you read in the book, you can actually see the details. You can see the environment, So, as I've said, we want to move this thing to the screens. But first it has to start somewhere. It has to start to be in our homes, right? And we have distribution channels. So guys, you can get the book on Take A Lot, it's available. It's also on Amazon. And I've said as well, if you scan the QR code, then you will go to the website directly. However, if you want to buy the book directly, there's the bank account over there, next to the author, and there are a couple of books over here. And the book goes for 270. Not much, ne? But again, that's not the point. The point is the screens. We want to take this thing to the screen. Right? So I want to introduce Mr. Lazarona Bear, distinguished Toastmaster.
KG, Dad.
How are you doing, my man?
I'm all right, man. I think the first question really is, what inspired you to write, right? And what inspired you to write this kind of content? And I think it's powerful content, but what was going through your mind?
Yeah, no, thank you very much, my man. So let me do this. Before I even start, I just want to say thank you. Actually, I want to thank my family. I want to thank my small family, right? I want to thank Kike Moeja, Khaboya Mollo Moeja, Wadiwa Moeja. Also, on that, I want to thank my helper, Ausi, Makamoel. I want to say thank you very much to them. When I started writing this book 2 years ago in 2022, we were not in a good space. We were not in a good space, and I know that I was not a pleasant person to be around at that time, So I just want to appreciate them. They were there. They were living with me. They saw everything, and I remember I spent a lot of time in my bar. I believe it or not. Like, I don't know. So one day I woke up and I had so much anxiety, depression looming, and I was in so much pain. It was bad. And I woke up and I went to my bar and I opened the laptop. And I wrote Ghost of the SADC Region. 8 months later, I wrote The End. By that time, I was about 46,000 words, right? So I don't know what possessed me in that period, but I know that in that period, I was trying to run away from the world. And then I had to create a world, and I had to live in that world. I remember she used to come because in my bar, you can come in and out of the house the whole day, the whole week, and not even see me, and not even know that I was in the house. So I remember Ausi used to come and say, Papa, because I was always in my pajamas. And she used to say, Papa, maybe it's time we change those clothes, It's starting to smell a bit weird in here. But yeah, I just wanted to thank them because they saw me in that space. It was a bad time. I don't know what possessed me, but I think something great came out of it. I think at some point you just need to be pushed out of your comfort zone. So I think it happened. I do not regret the time because I wouldn't have come to this level. I don't even know if you ask me to write now, even do it again. But I know that now I've got the capabilities, right? Now I can do it, right? And I think even now that I'm in a better place, that maybe I can even write a much bigger, maybe 300 pages. But yeah. While I'm there, I just want to say thank you very much to my mother, Peggy Mueja Kauhelo, Mueja Kantilomzi, my aunt to me, Tia Petu. I just want to say thank you. Going back to your question about what inspired me. So Kauhelo made a nice, he explained it nicely. So, I appreciate what the Western and the Europeans and the Asians are doing and what they've always been doing. If you look at the stories they write about, if you look at how they're proud, especially the Western, if you look at their flag, they're proud about it, right? Recently, I wrote a quote and I posted the quote on my page, or on my Facebook page, and it says, if you can see it in your mind now, we will live it tomorrow. And I think we need to start walking that, right? I appreciate our struggle background, our fallen heroes, but I think we are still caught up. We're still writing about Chris Hani today. And I get it, right? We're still writing about Mandela, Steve Biko. Great. We're still crying, right? If we continue to be crying, those girls will live it tomorrow. We are living it today because my dad was crying. Now, I'm his son. If I continue to cry, they will live it. The world has moved on. Everybody, if you look at the Western, if you look at, everybody was colonized one day. In my radio interviews, I always talk about, if you look at what the Western, what they normally do, a lot of their stories, they write it in the future. So they see themselves in the future, right? And they project the technology that they already have in their mind, right? And these stories are written in crime stories, hence my crime story. Because you can't tell the future, you can't express or showcase your technologies in a love story in the future, guys, right? We need some bombs, some technology, some tracking device, and it needs to be a crime story, right? So that's where we got Ghost of the SADC, right? So I wanted to inspire the next writer. 20 years from now is not too far. It's only 20 years, the year 2044. So I didn't want to write about 50 years or 100 years. I would be lying about the future that's there. So, I mean, the technology that would be there, right? So the technology that you see in the book is the ones that we already know, right? But I wanted to inspire the next writer to write about 50 years and the next about 90 years and whatsoever, right? So my vision is for us to move on and start seeing ourselves in the future, right? Now we've got these devices in Africa. It's somebody else's dream. You know, how about us? This is what the world, the Western, the Europeans, the Chinese, they told us that a method of communication needs to be like this. And we took it. We are living their dream. How about we develop our own? And how do you do that? We need to see ourselves in the future. We need to be like, okay, we don't need cell phones. Maybe there's another way of communication that we can come up with. You know, maybe it's a device like that. It's not even a rectangle stuff. Like you go to your house, there's this rectangular box on your wall. They told us that it should look like that. How about we change that? How about we develop technology that's relevant to us, African? Maybe we don't need cell phones, guys. But how will we get there if we do not see ourselves in the future? So that's what inspired us, or inspired me to write about Gods of the SADC. It's a crime story, but I needed to show you through that. You know, in the past when you saw Star Wars, it was a crime story, but they showed us the technology that we are living today. That's our reality today, right? We saw automatic opening doors, things flying around, and those are here, right? So I'm also hoping that that's where we're going as Africans, that we can reimagine where we are. Do not forget Steve Biko, but let's look beyond that now. So thank you.
You know what? You just invoked so much, just with that particular response, and just capturing the narrative that we want to see. And I think we've done ourselves an injustice. You know, just what comes to mind is simple thing like the prepaid platform that is used on cell phones globally was developed in South Africa in '93 to solve a problem that is rooted in poverty. But we remember the poverty story, not the technological advancement story. WhatsApp is rooted in mixed with the South African story, but no one talks about that. And again, it talks to, we're not capturing our narrative. We want to remember how oppressed we were. And you're right, the world has moved on. It is what it is. Very difficult to swallow, but the world is like, hey, I'm sorry, can we move, right? Yeah. You touched on it on the author, on the title. You said I wrote this title, and I think sometimes, you know, we don't process the thought that gets us here. We get somewhere, and then in hindsight, we sort of process. So I'm looking at this title, and I'm thinking about the synopsis, the book. There's so many other ways you could have titled this book, you know. And the words God, gods in it, and the word SADC, it's confluence in politics, maybe religion, you know, the graphics, you know, there's a lot going on here, yeah. Right? Which I think it was a creative choice. Yeah. So I want to get your thoughts, whether they are preemptive or in hindsight, about why this particular title, and what is it about this title that you thought this is what it should be named? You know?
Okay, that's a difficult one. Okay, so Gods of the SADC Region, right? So, okay, this is a famous one that you might know. So gods. So I wanted to create a world, an underworld of people that decide what we do, how we live life, how we process information.
Illuminati.
Yes, Illuminati. So I wanted to bring, I didn't want to say that. So, yes. So me and you, we just normal people, 9 to 5. Okay, some of the people in here, they do their own thing. But there is a world, there's an underworld where people decide how we look like or where we're going tomorrow. All right? So that's the gods. So I wanted to write a story about that. about these people that changes how we look like, or where we're going, or how we process education, right? And then the part of the SADC, I wanted to bring to light all these South countries, Southern African countries that are forgotten. If you think about the South Africa, we only talk about South Africa. When last did you hear about Namibia? When last did you hear about Angola? When last did you hear about Tanzania? So I wanted to bring light into all of those countries. And if you read the book, you'll see that we've got events everywhere else. One of the main events is happening in Angola. And I'm telling you about all these capital cities that you probably never heard of. We in Madagascar. What's happening in Madagascar? Nobody knows. I don't even know what's happening there. But I needed to bring something to you, right? There's a few nice places in there that I'm talking about there. So when you read the book, you will learn a bit more about these southern other countries apart from South Africa, right? When we talk about other southern countries, it's always like negative stuff, like Zimbabwe. It's always about Mozambique. So I wanted to just bring light to that. So that's where the SADC comes from, right? And then the image, the graphics, is that world, that underworld, those people, whatever they do, when they're in conflict or when they fight, whatever happens to them, we feel it. We feel the pain. So that's where you see the fire coming from the ground all the way up into our cities. Whatever they decide, when they fight amongst themselves, we feel it. Inflation, like we feel it. So that's the graphics, all of that they do whatever they want, but then it's on to us. So that's where the name comes from. Yeah, these gods who are living in the underworld, and they affect how we look. Yeah.
Again, I think you touch on, the idea we have about Africa is limited even for Africans, and that's something that we should die trying to correct. When you look up on Google, Kenya, one of the top searches is going to be the explosion of that happened in the U.S. Embassy. But when you go to Kenya, you have a different experience, right? And I think that's what we're also saying, that if we don't promote this continent, no one will, and I think that's I like that perspective to say what's actually happening in Madagascar. Interestingly enough, the one thing that all of us know most about Madagascar is the movie Madagascar, which has nothing to do with Madagascar, right? So yeah, okay. No, I'm really enjoying. I'm enjoying those perspectives. I'm looking at what you have not touched on already, or what I want to expand on. So there is a thing about writing where you might not know where you're going, but then once you're in the zone, you start to really develop the story. So, talk to us about, how you develop the world. The gods of SADC. It's quite admirable to design a whole world. That is a mind that is unlimited. What was that for you? How did you really create this world?
Yeah. Look, I think I've already touched on it, but let me just go a little bit into it. So creating the world was actually nice. It was a nice challenge actually to have, right? So now you've got these gods that live in the underground. They live amongst us, but their world is underground, right? And when I say underground, I don't mean like literally underground. Like they are invincible. They are here. We meet them in restaurants and all of those things, right? So now you've got these gods. And okay, let me make it simple. So now you've got these two empires that we highlighted on. You've got these two supreme empires who are now dominant in the SADC. But then again, you can't have two kings in a castle, right? So I needed then to put it together in a sense of, okay, so let's take these ones and let them dominate the North SADC. North SADC meaning your Angola, Tanzania, Zambia, those North SADC. And then have the other group dominate the South, right? Where you've got your South Africa, your Botswana, those small countries, right? Okay, not small countries, but those countries there. and for them to coexist, there needed to be some sort of mutual respect and some sort of gentleman's agreement between the founding fathers to say, you go and dictate that side and I will do my thing this side. Stay there, don't come here. If you come here, it's gonna be bad for you and I'll have to do something about it. But if you do wanna come, let me know so that I can pave a safe passage for you and all of that stuff. And then also, I had to protect them from the world, right? From the Western, the UN, all these Interpol and all these other bodies. So we had to then look at how do we protect them? And then when I look at Africa and I look at the South, and I was like, wait, there's that country there, Madagascar, let's go there, right? And then I look at Madagascar and then I'm like, okay, now we've got this country that I don't know what to do with. And then I'm like, okay, now I've got these gods, but how do I protect these gods? And then I then got inspired by your Godfather movies. You know, they've got their systems there. They've got this made man system. When you are a made man, you are untouchable. You are invincible. We can't kill you, right? So you take that system, and then you also look at something like John Wick. You know, the New York City, the Continental Hotel. You know, when you're in there, you've got this immunity, like nobody can touch you, that type of thing. And I'm like, okay, great. There's your Madagascar then, right? So then Madagascar is this place where African leaders can run away from the world and go hide there, and they can be untouchable. Like no UN, whatever, that can go there whatsoever. So that's their safe haven where they can go, because you know, with these European countries, they come and invade your country, and then they generate this propaganda against you. I mean, look at what happened to Gaddafi, you know. But that's me. I don't want to be political. But yeah, that's how I built that world.
So a lot of it is based on some life experience, some observations. Yeah. Okay, no, I think that makes sense. Let's go a bit into the book itself, and you just introduced to us some of the characters that are there, the main characters. And maybe as an unfair question, it's like asking who's your favorite child, and no one wants to say it, right? Yeah. But just take us through those characters, the main characters by name, and just maybe tell us which one is your favorite character, and maybe why. Why do you say so? Not to say we should enjoy that character ourselves, yes. We can pick a different character, but you, because you've written it, and I'm sure you'd agree, you write the story, then you read the story. You have two different experiences of your own literature.
Yeah, sure. You have no idea how many times I had to revisit each chapter. So yeah, talking about the characters. So let's start with my favorite character. So my favorite character, Molaudi, is one of the Shadow members, right? He's one of the siblings. He's the middle sibling in the family. That character reminds me of myself a lot, right? So he's a guy that's he's overprotective over his siblings, right? He's that guy that goes out of his way to protect everybody. So he puts everybody before himself, right? And look, at the end, it all ends bad for him, right? Because we know what happens when you put other people besides yourself, you know, like you neglect yourself and all of that stuff. So when I wrote the book, it was one of the stuff that I realized about myself, right? I looked at myself and I was like, yes, like, you know, like I'm always coming through for everyone, right? But I never come through for myself, right? So I enjoyed putting together that character, Molaudi. And it's a bad thing, man. So for me to write that, it had meant that I learned and I had to grow from what I am and change that perspective about myself. So yeah, that character had to give a new birth to this Kevin. Yeah. But talking about other characters, I think I'm gonna leave that to you, the reader. Interesting characters. What I did there, I wrote a story. So I wanted to do something in the lines of The Matrix, John Wick, Bad Boys, nice crime, action, blockbuster. They call it blockbuster, eh? blockbuster type of thing, you know, and I wanted to put it here in South Africa, well, in the SADC, but here, and using our own names, using one of the characters is Tebu, another character is Rahadi, Tepiso, aka Rahadi, right? So I wanted to use those names and try bring it closer to us, because we see these names up there, Denzel Washington, you know, Will Smith, you know, they are just too far off. How about we use our own names, so that's where those characters will come through. But I'll leave it to you. I think enjoy them. They're nice characters.
I think that what is also powerful, what you've said, is, you know, writing in itself is a form of reflection. It kind of heals you. And I think there's something to be said about fiction and reality. Because we like to say it's fiction, but actually there is a basis. And I think there's a message there that actually we should write more. Because all going through something. So I'm making a mental note, right? You speak about Denzel Washington. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, you know, Marvel or DC, right? But I mean, KG expressed it, in our conversation we expressed it, that you don't want this to stay in book format, you want to take it to digital, which I like. And I think sometimes readers will be like, no, you're doing an injustice to making a movie. These are forms of media that transcend time. So I do wish this becomes a different format, goes to screens, movies and that. But if you are sitting there, part of the casting team, right, and you know these characters, and you want to see how they will be reflected, you know, take us through a few names, some of the people that we might know or might not know, international, local, or, you know, who do you want playing these people, right? No, it's okay, you know, just take that risk.
Okay, so first of all, the original manuscript was not written for a book. It was written for a film. This was a film. The original manuscript, I still have it. It was only later that we had to convert it into a book. So a book, it was just another channel to tell the story. So what I'm trying to sell here is not the book. I'm trying to sell the story. So the dream is to have it on the big screen, right? Hence those characters. I put a lot of work into those characters, right? But I'll tell you the faces I had while I was writing down those characters, right? And the obvious ones is Michael Adrian, Mickey, right? One of the fathers. Kanti spoke about him on the synopsis, right? I saw Robert Whitehead, Barker Haynes. I saw Barker Haynes. We have these characters, man. I saw Barker Haynes, you know, the Tony Soprano type of thing. I saw him. And then Kiamukhezi. I saw Pel Tusi. Molaudi, I saw somebody like Voyo Dabula. And these come from Queen Sono. You know, when I saw Queen Sono, I was amazed by the martial arts. I was like, oh, wow, we can do this thing. You know, I saw that. I was like, I think we're ready. Let's go for it. You know, so when I was writing, I saw those people. Look, there's a few of them that I saw. Muecha Taima in the book there. I saw somebody like John Khan. You know, so yeah, so those are the characters. There's many more, but don't get me in trouble now. Like, I'm not favoring anyone. I mean,
Let's put names out there. Let's let them fight it out.
Obviously, the thought is to produce new actors, right? Like have a new Barker Haynes. You know, like Barker Haynes, I think is era. Yeah, but if he wants to do it, he can do it.
No, I absolutely. So when is chapter 2 coming, right? We'll just get these books out, you know, and start producing that movie, right? All right, cool. I think I want to give the audience an opportunity also to chip in here, but I think just to maybe bring it together. You know, you've really, I think, touched on what the story that you've written here and what you wanted to inspire. If someone picks up this book randomly in an airport or anywhere where they're not thinking about this, they're like, okay, let me read this while I wait. You know, what is the paradigm shift that you want that person to feel? And I mean, put this person in an unshackled way. They don't have no basis. They could be European. It's just a person. They didn't even want to buy it. Someone says, yeah, read this while you wait. What is the paradigm shift that you're looking for?
So I want you as a person to look around you, and I want you to start, if you're not already doing it, I want you to start respecting everybody around you, whether is your garden boy, your helper, the security guy at your estate, whether it's your CEO or your head of department, and it doesn't matter in what position you are. But I wanted you to respect and give same acknowledgement to everyone, right? For example, you put your boss here, and you respect him so much, and you think very little of your nanny. And you walk out of that house, she stays there, and she raises your kids. And you go run off to the streets and you give that guy, it's fine, he's giving you money in your pocket at the end of the day. But what I'm trying to say is that you are also disrespecting, or you are leaving the person who's looking after your most important treasure at home, right? So what I'm saying is that respect everyone, acknowledge them the same, because you never know who will come through for you tomorrow. You'll never know. So that's what I want you to take home after reading this book. There's a lot of emotions in the book. You'll see it's a crime story, but there's a lot of things that are happening in there that will bring you back and you will understand. But you'll see them through the events, right? It's not a motivational book. You have to really get into it for you to understand it. But yeah.
I connect to that because I think part of what I'm getting from the book is we have to make decisions. And we have to understand our own ability. I always make a reference to time, right? You'd hear people saying that, oh, I'm bad with time. I can't keep time. Until they have to fly, right? Because everyone gets to the airport on time. I mean, on average, people don't miss flights that much. They get to the airport on time because we respect the airport. All right? And so maybe that's part of what we need to think about. How do we respect each other around us, the people we see, the people we work with, the people that look after our house, our kids, and all of that. So I think that is a very, very powerful message there. So I'll pause there, and I will just open up for the audience. Take a couple of questions. The author is here. Remember, 100 years from now, you are interpreting. And you'll be ruining the fact that I should have asked. And remember, all of us are living longer. So a couple of people here are going to be 110. I'm just putting out there. Right? So can I get some hands?
That's why I'm black in black, the shadows. No, man, when you were explaining the inspiration or how you started writing the book, you mentioned that you were in a fairly dark place in your life. And I'm assuming that contributed to the dark theme that we got in chapter 1. Now we will be expecting chapter 2. We do hope that we will get to chapter 2. And I'm assuming now you are in a much brighter place in your life. Will that affect the general theme of the story, which we believe it's a good story? Will you resist your experiences changing the narrative, or are we sticking with what we have now as the winning formula?
So no, the story needs to continue, right? So I was in a very bad place, and I'm still in a very bad place, but I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So the next chapters are already set somewhere, right? So the story is already sitting somewhere, right? So there's 4 chapters of the story, right? So chapter 1 is repercussions, and then there's chapter 2, which is becoming. So becoming will be about how did this empire come about, right? So we go back to how did they come about. We've touched a bit on the background in the book. And then there's also chapter 3, which is the perfect soldier, right? Now, the perfect soldier is how did the founding fathers groom the young ones to take over. And then the final one is wildfires in paradise. So that's where that fire comes out. So the chapters are already set. So it's going to be easy for me to just go into that and resist the happy place.
All right, okay. But I mean, I think part of it is whoever you are at that kind of time, it gives us a different dynamic, a different outcome to the story. And I think trying to also embrace who you are becoming is part of it. Otherwise, you try to force yourself to be somebody who's static. And writing is never static. Time is never static. Who you are as a person is never static.
As far as the word, the operative word that you the gods, what should the word gods to be mean in the context of the
We know God to be invincible. This Almighty, right? So that's where I wanted to describe these characters in this underworld. And I wanted to bring them up as gods, these invincible people that live there. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question.
So much is mostly towards your creative process. When you're writing, I guess, you will start in a certain space creatively or throughout your life or whatever that inspires you. So as it goes, you will reach a point where, let's say, some would call it writer's block, where you're no longer as inspired and maybe you're just halfway through the book of writing. How did you keep yourself in that space? When you're still going on with your life, but then at the same time you still have to get back to this project and get back into that mood for you to.
Okay. No, thank you very much for the question, Mr. Fongwan. What helped me a lot was that I watch a lot of movies, right? So every time when I had like a block or or when I felt like I was losing the plot, right? I would be like, I'm going to watch The Matrix again. I'm missing something. There's something that I'm not seeing here, right? And then I take that and I say, but how would that look like here for us, right? And I go and I look at John Wick. I watched John Wick 1, 2, 3, and then I went back to 1. Like, there is something here in 1 that the others don't have. So that's that's what kept me motivated. And you'll see there's a chapter 4, where I gave the book out for a review, and then somebody came back and said, Chief, it's okay crime here, where's the love story somewhere, So I had to go back and go check some love stories. I'm like, okay, I need an angle somewhere. What was fun was that when I was writing, I was not writing for a book. So that was fun. So I could visualize the world, I could visualize everything. And I was lucky that when it was done, I was like, let's convert it. And I had some professionals converting that. Yeah, so I didn't have to do the hard work of like how a book is written and all of those things. But yeah, movies.
I think the first question I had you answered already, because when you talk about God, I wanted to ask if is it a metaphor for power? So that is my God. You mentioned Africa, and what came to my mind was coexistence. Africans coexisting amongst each other. And I know there's an event that happens that causes for these two worlds to collide, right? So I'm asking, are we going to get a glimpse or an opportunity to see Africa coexist? Because it's so difficult for Africans to coexist, with everything happening. So in the film, are we going to get an opportunity to see Africans coexist?
No, we don't. Look, the picture tells it all falls apart. And it falls apart because of greed and all of that, power, look, at the end of the day, it's a fantasy story, right? So, like I said, it's not a motivational. It's like people have to die, you know, explosions and all of that. Yeah, you know. So no, we're not gonna see this. Yeah, we're just gonna see destruction, and but there's lessons you will take. There's life lessons that are infused somewhere. Yeah. No, thanks for your question. It was a nice question.
Thank you for that response. And I like that kind of honesty, because sometimes one thinks to always be kumbaya and life doesn't work out like that. But I just want to say thank you for taking my questions. Thank you again for inviting me here, and thank you for lending me an ear. I think I'm really looking forward to see how this book permeates. We really should be part of the arsenal that promotes it. Because it's a fantastic concept, it's a fantastic cog in the broader idea of the narrative capture that we Africans must actually promote within the continent, so that we're respected. Because I think unless we accept ourselves, we can never be respected by the rest of the world. So thank you for doing your part, and thank you again for inviting me here.
Woke up done, can you carry me? When I'm losing my mind, can you hold me? If I'm hazy blue, can you help me?
Can you help me?
Feeling down, can you feel me? When I'm running low, can you charge me?
When I'm running low.
If it's love or talking, you ain't really frontin'. You do the walk and talk the talk, but drop it. Pull me back, you left me there, I'm falling. Stop, the hell are you going? I'ma hold me up, I'll get myself together. Who'd have thought without you I'd be better? Brace yourself, I'm ready for another. I said it once before, without you I'm